asked me to read, and I got all scared because I can't see shit now, so I got glasses. Steps 10, 11, and 12. We have been speaking to you of serious, sometimes tragic things. We have been dealing with alcohol in its worst aspect, but we aren't a glum lot. If newcomers could see no joy or fun in our existence, they wouldn't want it. We absolutely insist on enjoying life. We try not to indulge in cynicism over the state of the nations, nor do we carry the world's troubles on our shoulders. When we see a man sinking into the mire that is alcoholism, we give him first aid and place what we have at his disposal. For his sake, we do not recount and almost relive the horror. For his sake, we do recount and almost relive the horrors of our past. But those of us who have tried to shoulder the entire burden and trouble of others find we are soon overcome by them. So we think cheerfulness and laughter make for usefulness. Outsiders are sometimes shocked when we burst into merriment over a seemingly tragic experience out of the past. But why shouldn't we laugh? We have recovered, and we have been given the power to help others. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 132. Thank you.
Nice job.
And here to, coming up to bring us home with 10 and 11 and 12, somebody that I am fortunate enough to call a friend. Jack D. from Baltimore, Maryland. Oh, man. Thank you, God, for this experience, and thank you, God, for today. And just help me to wherever you got a store, bro. Let's rock it. I'm Jack. I'm an alcoholic. I'm really, really happy to be here. I'm really happy to be here with all you people, man. I just really, physically, spiritually, emotionally, I'm just to be connected to anybody in the room. To be present physically in a room AA where people are talking about what we've talked about today, I was dead. When I came to you, I brought you a trash bag and a duffel bag, and you've given me everything that a guy like me could ever actually want or need. You know, I will think other thoughts, but you've given me more than I could have ever even come close to knowing about existing. Because what you've shown me is what's been talked about today, and it's internal. And it's freedom, and it's something that it was never even on the radar for a guy like me. So thank you. Thank you to everybody that said anything today up here. And I'm hanging out with my heroes, and I'm not just talking about the people that are talking, but the people that are willing to be here. Those of you that want to spend your day here together, because I want to be with you too. Those that are getting enthusiastic about something that really is the transformative power. That really does change lives. This day has been incredible. Sitting there and just being a part of each conversation that has happened up here. And which is what it's felt like to me. And that's what we got. That's what we got for the end of this thing. You got what it's felt like to Jack, basically, for an hour. So it might get a little funny, might get a little weird. Hopefully we may chuckle a little bit, like our reading told us. It makes for usefulness. It's not always, this is grave, serious stuff. But there's a levity that we get to exist in that's incredible. And everyone that said it, I feel the same. Cleo said it when she stood up here, and I feel the same way. There is no reason for me to be here now. There is nothing left to say. That will not stop me from saying a bunch of things. I want to be clear. But there's nothing left to be said. The message has been carried. The message is clear. And I just think that that's so beautiful to be in a place like that. And, so anybody that did anything to put this together, thank you guys and ladies and people that took the trash out to help make this cake that apparently is just like the greatest cake known to human existence. And, just anybody that did anything to be together or the willingness to come here so that there is some laughter while all these people got to talking, and there is people to connect to while you're talking, and you don't feel like you're talking to yourself. Just anybody that's got anything to do with anything, thank you, because I need you. And from step 1 all the way through 8, and it's just been, man. And there's too much to go into each one, but I just hope you folks know how much the message of your experience means to a guy like me. Because I came here craving to have an experience like the one that you all talk so well about, and I didn't even know that's what I was craving. And people like you started to put it into words, and it started to see like something that I might actually be able to have. Your 12th step brought me here. I am the product of the other people in Alcoholics Anonymous living in 10, 11, and working in 12. That's why I'm here. It's very easy for me to just shoot into my experience. But there's only one reason why I ever stayed or was found any ability to sit down and listen to anything. And it's because of people, some of whom are literally in this room today, talking about alcoholism in a way that was actually personal to me. And I could finally understand that I might be in a lot more trouble than I think I am. And as that started to take hold, it became, there was just all of a sudden, I was starting to hear and see things that I felt like I had never heard or saw. And I just feel incredibly fortunate that has been my experience. And to still be alive and living and breathing. To not only talk about it, but to feel it and to try to keep experiencing it, So 10, 11, and 12 is a lot. There's 3 steps, it's a lot, you know what I'm saying? It just is, And I can tell you that there's one word that's been sitting on my heart for 48 hours, and it's the word ripples. I don't know why. But just the ripple effects of people's 12-step work, of love, of God, of whatever you want to feel, but just this, drop a pebble in the pond and watch the ripples go out. Just this feeling and that idea, why shouldn't we laugh? We've recovered and been given that power to help others. Sometimes I think that I want to get back close to that line and rally up and just get fired up about that fact, because that's so incredible for a guy that brought you a trash bag, a duffel bag, and was given a death sentence. It's but that's not the life we're living today at all. At all. And even in my most recent time of being given only basically belongings that fit in a trash bag, not that long ago, was able to have a completely different experience with just basically a couple changes of clothes in a laundry bag for a little while, as a result of doing everything that's been talked about so far today and trying to sink in to these 3 simple numbers that ain't just 3 simple numbers, Just sitting there, other people's 12-step work, I don't even know if my wife will ever fully be able to comprehend what being next to her as her we're sitting in the parking lot of this park, getting ready to go into this memorial, and I mean, she's not kidding about vibration. Terrified. But a power was flowing that moved us out of that car and her into that memorial. What the demonstration of what other people do here, I can lose sight of how powerful it can be. Of what what really it can mean for somebody. And I want to stay close to that. I want to honor that because it's like, I'm just so quick to talk about me and think about me and it's just like, I just am here with myself so often. Like, I just am, and when there's moments and there's times and there's experiences where I look and I'm like, what? Like, the product of other people going through these steps and waking up and then being willing to carry a message. That product is me. I am that. Like, my mother gets a relationship with me because of you and what you've done. Sure, I had to put in some effort along the way, but let's be honest. If you don't show up and give me something that I can sink my teeth into, I'm not staying with you. I can't. It was so well said. I can't. It's not that I don't want to. It's not that I don't need to. I actually can't do it. And when I finally had this experience, and my story is so similar and different, but similar more, just, I came and I left, and then I came back, and then, I tried to become a big shot, and I'm the guy that 10 steps for a long time, for the first 5 or 6 years of my sobriety, were an effort to feel better. And I'm not saying that they're not still that way often. I'd be lying. When disturbed, I take action because I don't want to be disturbed. I'm not just this, it's only for God's sake to be closer to... No. I noticed the disturbance and I don't want to be disturbed anymore, so I'm taking action. But and Cleo mentioned it, I had this sponsor and we got up into 8 and 9 and I never did 8 and 9. I systematically switched sponsors for 5 years, 5 times. I never did the amends steps. I finally got with this one guy and I started and he had me in a way that no one had ever had me. And I think about who his sponsor was. Charlie. And I think about who his sponsor is now. Chris. And I think about people that I now work. It's just this weird, but he had me, but then I would bring him some conduct stuff, or I'd bring him something in the community in Step 10, and he would give me considerations, and I would it didn't take long to stop calling him. It didn't take long to stop bringing this information to him. I don't want to be that honest. Big dog. That's cool, man. That it's all everything, but that's not my deal. I'm not trying to I'm 20, whatever, and single, man. This isn't about, it's not about how I'm treating these people. It's about the fact that I'm having an honest conversation with them before I use them. In what world is that real, Jack? The world that you've created, Jack. I don't want to hear that kind of stuff. I'm so glad that he brought that then, never back down, and that I didn't die before I ended up back at the table with him. Because when I came back to the table, we were sitting he was still in the same seat, but I felt like I was sitting just a slightly bit differently. You know what I'm saying? Because now the table hasn't changed. The person I'm sitting across from hasn't really changed. But my positioning has changed. I will now listen to you, bro. Now I'll listen. And how do I remain sponsorable? How do I remain sponsorable? 10 and 11 have a lot to do with that for a guy like me. Along with a lot of other stuff that people talked about today, which is a lot wrapped into but how do I stay in that position? I don't always. I'm just so fortunate to have not died. I am so fortunate to still be here. I have tried so hard to spit in the face of Alcoholics Anonymous, and the loving hand of God has done nothing but wait for me and then help me when I finally surrendered again and just asked for my heart. Because I'm the guy that could put the tie on at 9 months sober and get the people to laugh at the front of the room and then literally systematically try and get into the direct messaging portal of every young lady I met that evening in that meeting. I wasn't worried about where you were on a spiritual path. I wasn't talking about how we may be able to be helpful to each other. I was systematically trying to use Alcoholics Anonymous to get in front of yet another thing that I was going to use to serve myself. This is not the guy you want to be in AA. And if you're on that path, just know I love you. Even if there's people saying terrible things about you, they said them about me too. Like, it's true. But I too lack power. I too experience what Chad talked. I too have everything that's been discussed. And until I finally had an experience like the one that we've heard about up through 9 today, the awareness, the ability to watch in 10, what am I even looking for? Like, it wasn't ever fully there. And when you're walking around with a ton of unmade amends, what's 10 and 11 really look like? I get quiet, and what do I think about? The 96 people I owe money to. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh man, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I hope Cleo didn't make too many people not be able to sleep all night. We're just dropping 31 grand at Nordstrom's like it was really real. You know what I'm saying? But like all the conduct that's been going on, the stuff in my browser history that I'm actually hiding from human beings. You know, just like stuff I'm unwilling to talk about. Why are you unwilling to talk about it, Jack? Because it's not appropriate? Maybe. That definitely sounds good. It might be because you're terrified of the reality of it. Or you're scared of what they might think of you, because what you're doing is objectifying humans while talking about spiritual principles out the other side of your mouth. It doesn't go well. It doesn't go, and it's just, so until I have a full experience and get clear and do exactly what these people have talked about, in a very similar fashion to the way they talked about it, thank God, I don't really have that much of a hope up here. I'm the guy that just starts trying to sponsor people. Listen to me. You know what I'm saying? Listen to me. And it sounds a little more like, listen to me. You know what I'm saying? Listen to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not, and you're not, and you better, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how I was attracted to anyone, but like, I just, you make a joke and you get him and then, and then come on, no, you're calling me. Then you're calling me, and you're all going to stay with me. You know what I'm saying? Stay with me, it's going to be good. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be fine. We're going to help each other. This is about helping people. I've only left out a quarter of the entire program, which is only 12 things. I've only left 3 or 4 entirely off the table. Other than that, it's going to be great. And of course it wasn't great. Of course it was. I just use you like I use you, like I use you, like I used that, like I used what brought me to my knees in the first place to come meet you guys. Right? But what happens? What happens to bring me to a place where I'm finally willing to watch? And it's everything that we've heard about today. And then watching becomes something that is like, this is a necessity. Right? 10 and 11 ceased to be a luxury. It became a necessity, right? We've heard that line before. It's like, this is the truth, though, isn't it? Doesn't that happen? Doesn't that finally happen to me? Where I had such a powerful experience getting free, I didn't want to get unfree. I didn't want, I can't, not all the way back asleep, man. I know I am a drifter. I am. There is no doubt. I'm a napper. I'm just trying to not go all the way back in the dirt. Like I'm just trying to stay above and awake so that I maybe can be awake when I meet the guy like I met when I first got here this morning. So I can see it and I can know for some reason I'm being drawn to go talk to this guy. And I start talking to him and we start connecting and we have this powerful conversation about drinking again from a place of not drinking and an accident that he'd been in, and then our talk kind of, we're hanging out, and then it ends, and then Nicoletta gets up and delivers a first step talk in which she uses specific words that we had just had a conversation, and then I got with that guy again after that talk outside, and seemingly some things from that talk supplanted into him that may grow into an experience for him this time. That is my prayer. But God, keep me awake enough to know that even today, even this morning, where it looks like you're getting up to put a tie on, Jack, no, you're not. And my sponsor's very clear with me. You keep your eyes open, Jack. You're the point man. You are an agent. You got a job to do. And what's that job, man? What a cool job. What a cool employer. What a good deal this is. I brought you nothing. And then tried to ruin it, you know? Seriously, yeah, just you can't help it. You know, it's like, I gotta be a big shot. I gotta go to Los Angeles. Go to Los Angeles. What are you gonna do in Los Angeles? Well, I'm gonna get paid to help people. Well, of course you are. Of course you are, man. What else? You know what I'm saying? Like, sure, because you got help for free, so now you need to go figure out a way to profit off of everybody trying to get help for free. Of course you do, Jack. What else would you do? What else would you do, Jack, with the gift that was given to you freely? Figure out a way to get paid off of it. Makes sense? This is who and what I am. This wasn't from some genuine desire to go help people in an industry where people actually need to work and be helped. Of course that people need it. That's not where, no. I'm going to use you to line my pockets and to make my Instagram look great and to be able to go wherever I want and use human beings to continue to fill a hole in me that I have not been willing to fill with God yet. And who wants to say that? Only in hindsight, you know. And as a result of living that way, and it's almost like a direct result of not doing 10-11. Like it really is, you know, but it's like, but I know that there was an experience that had lacked in everything else that's been talked about today. In 1 through 9 that really put me in a position of 10 and 11 were not on the table in any like meaningful way. I could sit quietly, man. I went and saw some cool people. I listened to some cool stuff. I got introduced to some cool ideas. I spent time with people it doesn't matter for me because still now the manner of living is what is concerning here. And that's just a tricky thing because I just am obsessed with how I feel. And if I feel good, I am good. Really? You know, like, let's look at, and it just, oh man, and I end up in this place where I have never seen so much material stuff. And it's not as much as somewhere in a really nice area. I'm not going to, but for me, I came to AA at 23. I had been a busboy. I could never even get from busboy to server. 6 months at a job, when you're about to get the server, they always found me out. You know what I'm saying? They just always, I'm drunk, I'm in the bathroom for like 4.5 hours, and they're just like, sorry, man. So, I'll just go bus table somewhere else. There's nothing wrong with being a busboy, but I wanted to be a server, man. Couldn't do it. Couldn't get there. Get to AA, and I'm working in a grocery store, and I get a phone call, man, you want, and of course I'm going to go to Los Angeles, where I feel like I should have been called to like 25 years prior. You know, of course I'm going to go to the land, you know, where of blood heifer, dude, milk and honey, or fame and fortune, or money, or something other than where I am. Something other than here and now. I'm running from an amends list that's as long as my leg. I got conduct in the community I'm currently living in at this point. I roll out, there's no 10, there's no 11, there's no, 12 is I'll tell you what to do step work wise out of the big book. That's what I had. This is a very important piece. But an intellectual understanding and explanation of something that needs to be experienced in the heart is like, I could help other people start to have one, but eventually, it's interesting, they just all kind of found someone else to work with. You know? Good for them. And you end up finally reaching a place where I'm willing to go back and do everything and see everyone and finally experience what I hadn't ever experienced, you know? And as a result of that, selfishness and dishonesty and resentment and fear and self-righteousness and self-pity, these words started to take on new meaning. And my internal condition started to be something that I had never experienced before. And the way I was showing up in the life of the woman who I loved and my family and people in AA, and I just started to see, like, it was almost like out of body. Like, you just start to be like, whoa, dude, that's really you. Like, that's pretty, you actually just did, well, wow, like, that's what integrity means. But if you don't do X, Y, and Z, then this is just that understanding of I will always return back to who and what I am if I don't stay spiritually active, spiritually disciplined. You use whatever word makes sense to you, but do not stop asking yourself what they mean to you. Continue to do that. Because I can get so wrapped around what I think you think they mean. But there is one in this room who must experience a connection with God, and that one is I. I'm the one that's got to stay awake. I'm the one that's responsible to stay awake in my life now. I got a wife who deserves and needs that. I got parents who deserve and need that. I have an employer who deserves to be served. A small company that I tried to leave to go be a big shot in California that asked me back to try to help it grow. And we've now been back there 6 years. I got a home group to be a part of. I got men to demonstrate for. There are people in the world, once we start walking this path, who are watching us. And oftentimes, we don't ever really get to meet them. This is a scary thought for a man like me who moves as quick as I do and things fall out of my mouth poorly, regularly. You know what I'm saying? What's it like to actually slow down? Well, as a result of the life that I lived in California and finally going back through the steps and being in the middle of the amends process, I get arrested by the FBI. I was here a year ago, standing right here, a few weeks out from going into federal prison for a year. As a result of completely sober behavior, selfish, self-driven by, I created a healthcare fraud scheme that was patient brokering and lab kickbacks in the treatment industry. I didn't get exposed to that industry anywhere else but here, man. Good people carrying a message out of a book. It's just that's just. But anyway, I end up finally getting the opportunity to go to sentencing. Didn't feel like an opportunity at the time, Chad. We got that same sponsorship type thing. These folks, they're talking to us. I'm just happy they're talking the same way to him still. I am. I'm happy they're still talking to him this way because the word opportunity in my house, I hear regularly on the other end of the phone. I'm just okay, Dane. This is another opportunity. No, of course it must be. This must be an opportunity. That's what it is. This is a gift, right? This is just a present. You know what I'm saying? Well, it feels like I'm going to federal prison camp, man, And he sat across from me at Mission Barbecue before I went, and he said, I believe the greatest thing that's going to happen while you are there is this may be an incredible experience in a new speed for you. You may finally get the opportunity to slow down. Man, and how often my conversations with my sponsor in 10 steps circle around needing to slow down. At work, at home, with what I say, with how I act. All types of stuff that may be just little ideas and little things that pop out of your mind, little mannerisms, stuff that I'm not even awake to. And he was right. I got a certain amount of minutes on a phone, and the majority of those minutes, I called my wife while I was there. I talked to Dane, my sponsor, a few times in 7 months on the phone. He drove 6 hours each way and came and visited me a few times. You want to talk about a demonstration of the 12-step. 6 hours each way to come sit with me for an hour and a half and talk to me about his life. Let's talk about someone that's clear on what I've been thinking about for the last 2 months since I've seen him. Me. I said, yeah, lay it on me, bro. Come on, tell me what's going on. Please tell me about you. You know what I'm saying? But him coming and sitting in a visitation room and watching this man share with me stuff that's happening in his life that, being just, I didn't come here asking for relationships like that. I didn't know what it was like to have relationships like that. I didn't understand that physical proximity had nothing to do with the connection of the heart and the bonding of spirits through this type of action. I had no idea what it was going to be like and feel like to truly exist in the fellowship of the Spirit. I did not know that. You showed me that. I owe you my life and everything that's good for that. And now that demonstration is being brought while I'm in a green jumpsuit in a plastic chair sitting across from the guy that's always the guy that I go to with something, and now he's bringing me the depth of his experience of some real stuff that's happening within his life, and I am just blasted. What a gift. What a gift, and the clarity of the guy across that chair from me in these 3 steps to be able to deliver. And the experience in there was wild. Especially with these 3 steps, it's hard not to think about that time just because, I spent so much time in quiet. The only book that I was able to walk through the gate with was a pocket-sized 12 and 12. He didn't let me keep anything else, but he knew something. And he let me take that book in with me. And I'm standing there going in the chow line, terrified. What am I going to do with the chow? God help me, 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 God. What am I going to get food? Who am I going to sit with? I can't sit with the Detroit car. I can't sit with the Detroit car. The Baltimore car is a little intense. They're over there. Like, that's fine. They know that I'm from Baltimore. Like, I don't really know what God help me, God help me. And I'm just sitting there. I don't know what to do except for just read this book, man. I just start reading the St. Francis prayer over and over and over and over again. And before I know it, 5 days, 8 days, 9 days in there, I'm sitting in my cement cube looking out this weird window at absolutely nothing. And I'm weeping because I can feel the love of God flowing through me and into that facility. And I am visualizing power and love oozing through me out into this place and down the hallways and over to wing 2 and up to wing 3, back to wing 4 and out in the courtyard and into the people that I'm terrified of. And I'm just sitting there like, what did you people, what did you do to me? God, you are so good. And this prayer just bubbled up from inside of me, and I wrote it, and it was just, God, thank you for everything that you've taken from me. Thank you for everything that you've given me. Thank you for everything that you've withheld from me. Please help me to try and trust you more always and be a better steward of your will. Amen. And just sinking into that and knowing somewhere so deep that there was no one and nothing that could touch that place ever. And knowing that I am there. I am that. I exist there when all this isn't going on. These steps can bring us to a place where we can even touch something like that, man. What are you talking about? I brought you a trash bag and a duffel bag. You give me an experience where I just like, what? And the demonstration of some of these guys that came to see me. You want to talk about 12-step work? I'm going to stand here and talk about all the people that I sponsor? What's up the men that came there and walked into that visitation room and got background checks and came and sat there with me? So for 4 hours on Sundays, I didn't have to just keep thinking about myself. You know what I'm saying? People just love me. The words just, they don't do it. They don't get there. They're not enough. What an experience to have. I'm sitting I'm in a room right now, today in this very moment, where if we're going to use the sponsor words and this type of this idea that my grand sponsor is here, and a man who was sponsored by a man who is sponsored by a man that I sponsor is also here. The latter piece of this are men I was reconnected with as a result of being arrested by the FBI, put on pretrial release in Baltimore, and by the intuitive thought of my wife as we approached a federal courthouse to get arraigned 3 days after being arrested by the FBI. She paused and decided, we're going to move our whole life to Maryland. We're not going to go back to California. And as a result of that, this Thursday, I got to see this dude tell me about the 6 amends he made in Annapolis last weekend and watch him walk into this meeting looking like a different person, glowing, floating. My man's vibing. And I'm sitting just like, dude, I'm not having this experience in that moment. I'm just stoked for him. But as I sat here today, this just started to wash over me. I'm just humbled, man. I'm just humbled. I'm sat down. I can't stop crying. You know what I'm saying? My heart's just so full. What a thing. That's not because of me. Let's be very clear. But you've given me a process and shown me something that allows me to be a part of that. Yeah, I literally, please remember, trash bag and duffel bag is what I brought. And what has been returned? You want to talk about ROI? I mean, what's going on, man? Only God can pay dividends like this. But our literature's clear. You know what I'm saying? I got to give away the whole thing. How? Stay awake. How? 10 and 11. Be willing for what that shows me to be willing to start walking the dog back down the hill. I probably might need to write a little something. I may need to spend another little time in 6 and 7 soon. That might look like having to have a conversation. Some most recent experience with that. We're in Texas, visiting my wife's sponsor. Okay, just want to make sure it's very clear. This is not my sponsor. Okay? We're sitting around and we're standing around the island in their kitchen. Starts talking about inventory. I'm like, inventory. Okay, talking, listening, and all of a sudden, like, this experience starts happening where Cleo's grabbing a piece of paper, and then, like, we're being shown a new way to look at some stuff. The next thing you know, within 48 hours, I have a piece of inventory written on Cleo. And I'm now sitting at a table outside with Cleo's sponsor, sharing that piece of inventory with her. Not because she's going to see further into a relationship and manage our relationship and make us better partners. No. Because I trust the intuition of that human being, and I value the level of honesty that's coming back, and I know that I'm probably asleep to a bunch of stuff. And man, yeah, for real. Whoa. Just like, Marty, it just started so well getting to know you. And now that we sit here at this table, I feel pretty bad. Like this isn't it. And it wasn't like, bang, 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 blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're a terrible human. No, but it's like, what's it like for a guy like me who used humans here, right, to sit across from your partner, your wife's female sponsor, and be honest about the thoughts that can flow through my mind in the gym, about the thoughts that I can't control that happen, about the deepest, darkest things that can go. What's that like to sit there? I never knew, but I freeing is the answer. Freeing and awakening and a realization, and like, why am I so scared to bring that to someone of that gender that's going to give me some stuff that I can't, like, you start to get an experience and a perspective of something that, like, I never had enough respect for any human being to do something like that. But being brought to a place through what's happened here to be in relationship with a power that can move a self-centered, fear-driven, human-using individual like me to a place to be sitting at that table to try to stay more awake and continue to grow in understanding and effectiveness. A miracle has taken place. And the age of miracles is right here, right now. We are in it. We have heard about it all day. And when we roll out of here in just a few short minutes, we get to go bask in it and live in it and bump around in it and mess up in it and be wrong and have to come back and promptly admit things and get to take different types of time in the morning and in the evening and whenever, wherever, and pause and intuition and start to get different experiences where you start to see there can actually be space between me and my thought life. There is room between me and thoughts. Just an interesting thing to start and these little simple ideas turn into profound, deep experiences with the same thing I was looking for in a bottle of Jack Daniels. And definitely what I was looking for in some really good blood or LSD. I love AA and I respect singleness of purpose, but good Lord, man. I just loved going really far, really fast and getting in touch with something that could just make me laugh and feel at one with everything. That's why I love drinking a half a fifth of Jack. I just could never stop. And by the end of the fifth of Jack, it's just a version of Jack we don't want to see. Not fun, not pretty. He's pissing on it. It's just all bad. All bad. On top of vehicles, the same type of thing. I wasn't naked with Bombay Sapphire. I was just trying to start a riot and with Jack Daniels. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't know that type of connection, that type of experience was even available here. And I want to be really clear, I don't live there all the time. It doesn't, I don't. I'm not saying that you can't or some people don't. My experience is I don't. And I think a big part of the reason why I don't is because of 12. Because I got to stay with you. I got to stay with you. I got to sit right there. If I stand up here for an hour and put a tie on, tie comes off, I sit down. I'm with you. We have commenced shoulder to shoulder on a common journey. Not a hierarchical one, but a common one. You know? And I want to remain, for sake of a better word, a commoner. On the common journey with my common people, man. Doing common stuff, but having extraordinary experiences as we engage in the common solution. And getting to shout about them and talk about them and cry about them and laugh about them. And also have some really sad stuff happen. You know? And really scary stuff happen. And get to watch people that you walk with stand in the face of scary stuff and still tell us the truth about what's really real. And that demonstration, the 12-step work, there's a lot of ways to talk about that. But it just continues to other folks' demonstration. I want to continue to grow in honoring and sitting with and just kind of loving on a little bit more. And I'm not talking about worshiping people in any way, shape, or form. But I just the kindness of strangers, you know. When I think about, I go to my sponsor and then I go to his sponsor, right, who passed away. And we go back. And we go back to him. And we go to who helped him. And we keep going back. And then we're in the 30s. You know? And we're looking at two guys, some real OGs showing up to a court hearing, trying to grab young Ebby, telling the judge, hey man, we got somebody help this guy just before you lock him up. And you trace that guy back to getting a failed dose of something from a psychologist who didn't even really know fully what was happening. And it's you trace that all the way down to where I stand today. Man, you know, what a thing to be a part of. And just a link in the chain that keeps rolling. You know? I must do that. Me not honoring that, we got some stuff to talk about, bro. If we're not willing to honor that which has happened to bring me, let's talk about why. I'm not saying, you're bad, but let's talk. There may be some things that we could examine that need to get out of the way because it's harder to get more fired up about much than watching other people get well, helping other people get well, than watching small communities grow up around you when you never wanted to come back to the city. I wasn't coming back to Baltimore from Playa del Rey, one town down from Venice Beach, literally on the ocean. Let me go back to Baltimore. You know what I'm saying? That was not, literally 3 weeks before I got arrested. In the middle of this process, starting to wake up again, I said, Cleo, we're never moving back to Baltimore. God said, FBI, yes you are. Get ready. It's an interesting coat I have on today, Jack, but we have an invitation actually for you to make a decision if you want to move back here or not. You know, but I just I have no idea what's best for me. It was a prayer that was said by Eddie last night, man. I loved hearing that last night from him. Just as God help me remember that I do not know better for myself than you know for me. And how often, how quick, course of the day, I move right into that, especially at work, and people say, hey, Jack, what about that? How do we grow? And it's just let me tell you, get ready. You know what I'm saying? I was wait a minute, oh yeah. I'm talking last week, I'm having a conversation with my sponsor, and he says, this is what I want you to do. He says, you got room for a 3x5 card where you work, right? To write something and put it. I was like, Dane, I could put a 12x18 sheet on my wall. There's nobody else in the office where I sit right now. And he goes, okay, how about it just says, pause. So I literally have an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper right next to my door, right now, across from my desk. Pause, ask, thank you. It's okay to need a third dimensional reminder of where I really want to live and how I want to be. How often do I actually do that? Not that often, but I bet I've done it one or two more times since I did that, and that's, I need so much help, is all I'm trying to say. I need so much help, and I can only imagine, especially God bless my wife. I can only imagine how much room we have to grow there. God, when Eddie last night talked about it, he's like, my wife, she gets sick, she doesn't really get mad about it anymore, but I'll literally just we'll be at the house and all of a sudden I'm just rapping in her face. And Cleo just goes, literally my life. You know what I'm saying? Just straight up. It's good. It's cool for an hour, but it's a lot for 24. You know what I'm saying? It really is. We need a lot of help, and we have slowed down a lot, and that experience in Cumberland helped, and a lot of things have helped, but it hasn't solved. The drink problem has been solved currently as a result of continued action, but the self problem, the quick problem, the mind problem, the thought problem, I'll bet I can get just a little better deal out of this than what God's already arranged problem is still alive and well often. It's my responsibility now to stay awake so that I can see that, and then I need to bring it to the table, and stuff sometimes needs to be done in a more intense manner. Sometimes there's no writing. Sometimes it's just a quick 10. I really trust my sponsor's relationship with God. I truly trust the man's relationship with his God. And in so doing, he does not manage my life. No. But when I come to him for something, and he gives me direction and guidance that is clearly, intuitively inspired and clear and simple, I take it, man. And that way of living has worked really, really well. But sometimes the phone call doesn't always have to be made. Just to get current, because of course we must. Right? On the way here just yesterday eve, I know it's shocking to hear that on the way to the spiritual weekend with old Spiritual Jack talking about 10, 11 spiritual steps, he's on his way here and he just kind of starts thinking about this text message he sent earlier in the day, which was a group message to 5 different people at the job. To many of them, not a big deal. But to the one lady who I know suffers with severe anxiety, is in charge of billing, has become completely overwhelmed recently, has people that are out of work, it becomes clear that she sends me a message. And it just says, am I doing something wrong that we need to talk about? First thought, why would you ever think that? Can't be the message that I sent. You know what I'm saying? Nobody else has said anything. So guessing that the reason you've now texted me privately is because it's my fault, as it normally is, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't slow down and think before I sent the message, at least not about what was best for others, right? Of course, I slowed down and think enough to craft the message or to talk to the whatever. I slowed down enough to think about what I need to say and the point I need to get across and how we're going to do that and try to be considerate to not be mean, but knowing, and so, by the time we get up here, I just I need to call her, and the conversation was very simple, but it was just I didn't slow down to even consider how that might impact you, and I know how much you got going on, and when I slowed down and think of everything that you got going on, and the fact that Big Boss is out, and you've taken over this, and you're trying to do this, and she's just like, Jack, I just keep feeling like I'm failing, and I was just like, I did not intend to make you feel that way. I don't want you to feel that way. I'm sorry for not just slowing down and explaining or just saying nothing and just waiting to Monday and just having a conversation. And This might not be major for many, and many other people might have phrased that conversation way better than me. But to a guy like me that brought you a trash bag and a duffel bag and used the human beings in your meeting and couldn't stay with the woman I wanted to marry, to be brought to a place where that type of even willingness and awareness to just be honest and have an honest conversation with a human being to stay more connected with another human being in the world occurs, that is actually of paramount importance in that moment, that reality really became like, what a gift that is to a guy like me. Because what's it really look like to practice principles in all my affairs? You know, and that's like, if I'm not active in 10 and 11, again, I guess some may. I personally, my experience, I do not have a lot of hope in that. You know, the absolute necessity, right? I love what Bill talks about, what Evie said towards the end of those steps, man. Like, it's going to be imperative for you to work with others, but this necessity for these things to be within your life. And what's that look like in my life? You know, and for a long time here, man, and still often, but I mean, it was atrocious, the principles that I was practicing in all of my affairs. They were like everything you're trying to avoid on an inventory. They were like the fourth column. I mean, that's what I did. That's who I was. That's who I will be again, unless, and it remains my prayer, God, please help me stay willing to do whatever is necessary to stay close to you so that I can stay close to these people, so that I can be a good husband, so that I can show up for my family, so that I can play the role that you assign me, whatever that is. But please help me stay willing to do what it takes to actually be that. Because I know I can't, you know, and that's why, and it's not just because countless women, when I went to make amends to them, asked me to be the guy in the conversation that respected women when they weren't around. They did. Which is also why I'm eternally grateful that, like, the A step, when it was presented to me, in a very similar fashion it was presented to Cleo, with just this idea of, like, why don't we just get willing to make amends to them all, and send very generic approaches to them all, and let God and them decide, give them the dignity of saying yes, no, or not responding. But why don't you just give them that, since you've taken so much already? Why don't you not also take the ability for them to tell you what they want to tell you? Because that's really what you're doing, Jack, is you're not allowing them to have a conversation with you if you don't show up. You're at least not even giving them the opportunity to think, wow, if he came and had this conversation with me, I could tell him X, Y, and Z. And that's exactly all some of those ladies wanted to do to me, and they deserved every second of airtime. They deserved every second of airtime. Especially the one that looked at me and said, you know, it's interesting that no other guys that I've hooked up with and treated me like this in AA have ever done this. And I'm really glad you did. And all I'm my God, just thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you. Because I'm still just terrified of what you think. Like, I don't know what's happening. But then, but how do I actually demonstrate that? Like, I could never actually demonstrate that because I knew what this meant. I knew there was a new road in front of me. I knew there was tasks ahead. I knew that now I'm going to be at work and people are going to be talking about women or things in a way where I'm not going to become, hey, listen, gentlemen. You know what I'm saying? I don't think this is right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to become the sheriff of work. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, bang, bang. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, it sucks to suck. You know what I mean? You must suck. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, well, thanks, Mr. Freaking Spiritual. You know what I'm saying? No, but how do you guide a conversation with love? How do you leave a conversation honestly? Right? What am I looking at on my phone? What am I looking at on the computer? How am I communicating with other people? What am I doing in front of other guys? Like, what type of conversation is being allowed at the diner? What's happening with the men that I sponsor? Like, the impact that I can, what am I doing? Because the ripple impact, the ripple effect of the actions taken by the guys that I ended up on their radar and in their impact, they have been incredible in my life. So I'm not here to change anything or make anybody, but it's become very clear that I need to practice these principles in all of my affairs. And these principles may shift, they may change. I'm not here to get into a debate about that, but the experience that has happened in my heart and honoring God and honoring all of you, like, how do I try to stay closer to that? And as that started to happen, it started to seem like all of a sudden I was around other men who were doing the same thing. You know? And like, I would never said, well, water seeps its own level, you know? I didn't ever think that. I was saying, no, man, that's how guys talk, no big deal. Right, when you allow them to talk like that around you, sure they will. When you stop engaging in the conversations, though, it shifts. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, well, this is... So now I'm the same at home with Cleo as I am at the desk, as I am in the meeting, as I am at the diner. Just one lockstep integrated in the integrity. I'm integrated. Whoa. Like, man. And all of a sudden, like... What begins to happen to a guy like me is ideas start to fall away. And the reality for me, staying current and being real, is that new ones crop in. Like, let's not. But these massive ideas that have governed me and driven me for so long, these big, they start to fall away. They start to get chipped away. They start to just kind of like seemingly slip or fall away. Not entirely. Of course, they come back. Disturbances happen. But these massive things that I could have never thought about, like, a demonstration into a continuing care retirement community, which my mother and father now live at as a result of my mom having a couple very serious strokes, losing the majority of her balance, having a massive grand mal seizure, but happens to be located 0.6 miles from the house that Cleo and I purchased a year or two before they moved into this place in the Baltimore, Maryland area. And you just start to see dots connect. And you start to look and look back and look forward and look left and right and up and down and just look at God just whipping. And like, what I've been so asleep to this. And what more? And in every moment, I just like, if I continue to try to deepen, I believe in these steps and really stay close, like, the depth of that experience growing is a most marvelous thing to think about. Like, what a beautiful place to be. What an incredible thing, man. That just like the heart will just ever expand. And that openness and deepness and depth we will just continue to fall into and in love with. And get to walk with other people and watch people that are dying come to life. And be able to sit at tables and then go to family functions. And also the tragic stuff is real. The funerals and the graveside amends for the guys that you sponsored. And that stuff is very, very real. But the opposite's real too. The guys in the Thursday night meeting that we go to, that are walking off 10 years of methadone addiction and drugs that they were put on that they didn't even know, like just like watching things happen in front of me that I just like, I never thought I'd be able to be a part of. I wanted to be a big shot. I had plans for my own life, and God entered my life again and just started to change and shift me as I let Him discipline me through the actions that are outlined here and that have been beautifully outlined today. And my heart knows that if we continue to do that, the goodness of God will prevail. Because that is the experience that I've had, and millions before me, and many together now right here. And what an incredible opportunity to just be here with all of you and to have had an experience that I do truly from my heart want to talk about. I feel really grateful for that because I spent a lot of time in AA. I didn't. And it feels like it's time to be quiet, so I'm going to be quiet. Thank you for letting me share.